Today is June 8th, 2022, and I'm here with World War II veteran Wilbur Lawson. Wilbur, were you drafted or did you enlist?
I was drafted,
And what year was that?
I think, in '42.
And where were you sent for training?
Oh, Camp Van Dorn, Mississippi.
And how long did you do training there?
Oh, I'd say 3 or 4 months. Then I went over to Louisiana for more training, and then they asked for if anybody wanted to take flight training, so they transferred me to the Air Force, and I can't tell you the dates, anything. It's a long time back, and well, after they transferred me to the Air Force, they sent me to aircraft mechanics school, and well, then when I got out of there, they said, right now we don't need mechanics, but we need gunners. So they sent me to Las Vegas for gunnery training, and all it amounted to was fly low in a B-17 over the desert and shoot at a white sheet that was staked out on the ground with a shotgun. That was our flight training, and
How long did you do radio school for, and then gunner school?
oh gosh, I couldn't tell you. I done mechanic school. That was probably, I would say 6 months, something like that. But no, I didn't, not radio. I didn't get into radio.
Okay.
Radio, that was a different classification. We had, my radio operator was Jewish. My tail gunner was, I think, Catholic. I was Protestant. See, we had a mixture of, it didn't make any difference. We all went if we wanted to go. They had facilities for us to go to. I wasn't too much into church back then, but anyway, my pilot was Catholic. Just awful good bunch of people. I could never ask for better company than what I had in my crew. So.
Where were you sent to go overseas?
Huh?
Where were you sent to go overseas?
Oh, Lincoln, Nebraska. They sent us to Lincoln, Nebraska, and then I can't tell you, went up across Canada into Goose Bay, Labrador, and then over to Iceland, and then from Iceland over to Scotland, and over from there into England, and that's where I flew out of.
Did you take a plane from Iceland to Scotland, or a ship?
A plane. Yeah, I was the engineer, the mechanic gunner. I flew right behind the pilot and the co-pilot. If they had, I was their I was sort of their gopher. If they uh, if they had something they wanted to say to one of the other crew, why a lot of times during wartime the Germans could intercept our radio in the plane there if they had a call for it. But so I would a lot of times he would give me the message and I would go back to whatever crew man he wanted me to tell it to. But he was a strictly, I couldn't put him down. He was strictly by the book person. And it, yeah.
So what year did you get over to Scotland? Was it still 1942 or was it 43?
No, it was about 44, I think, close to 44. It was just a stopover there. We ended up over in flying out of England. Shelveston 305 was their code number. We got in, I think 6 missions is all I got in. Needed 25 for rotation. And needless to say, we never turned the rotation down because the sooner we got our 25, we could get back home. See, and well, I had just got married shortly before, and I was lucky.
Can you tell me about your first mission?
Not really. I don't remember where it was at, or where we went. It was somewhere over Germany, but I couldn't tell you. I'm trying to. We hit one target up there that wasn't German, but the Germans were using it for their ships up up above north of Europe. There are 2 countries, like a finger coming down.
Norway?
Norway and Sweden, I think. I think the one on the left, Norway. The Germans had, they used that for their ships to run the coast for England. So we bombed that port there. That was the only one that wasn't German that we bombed. Of course, I was lucky I got in on the tail end of it, so.
Do you remember any of your other missions you did?
No, not really. They just, he just went out and crawled in the plane, and I was the mechanic on the plane, so I would go around and check a little bit, but we had a terrific ground crew over there, and if there was anything wrong with that plane, and you tell them boys was right, they were right on it right now. You know, whether it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 12 o'clock at noon, didn't make any difference. Terrific, all of them. With ground crew was terrific people.
When he left the United States to go over there, they took a brand new plane. You can tell them about that.
Well, yeah, we went out to Lincoln, Nebraska, and they going to get it plane. So I guess here we come, brand new B-17. We were set. We got over to England and we landed and taxied off onto a country road in behind the other B-17s, and they were lined up. They had fields. They had fields full of B-17s stored up over there. I'm surprised the Germans didn't hit them, but and anyway, we left that new one there and went over to the base, and the ones they have there, we used the ones they had there. So what happened to the one we took over probably never got used because the war ended shortly after I got over there.
Well, do you remember your bomber squadron you were in, or
364th Squadron, the 305th Bomb Group.
okay?
Yeah.
Did,
Company B.
did your pilot ever talk about seeing the German jets fly over the Messerschmitts?
No. If he seen them, I would have seen them because I was right behind him. We got in. We were lucky. We got in on the tail end, and we had one. We had one, and I asked the pilot, and the pilot, no, you don't attract attention. But off to our right, out quite a ways, we had one following along, just one fighter plane. Too far out, couldn't hit him. And he flew out there for probably 5-10 minutes, and pretty soon he turned in and come, and he went down, and he went under me, and come up the flight that was on our side, on our right side. Why, he come in underneath them. They didn't see him coming. See, because we were in between them, and the pilot didn't think I should shoot at him because I wouldn't be able to hit him. He was too far away. But he went down and got one of the B-17s in the flight next to us. But like I said, it was just about, the war was just about over with, and that was about the only excitement that after that, we never seen any German fighter planes.
Did the pilot see anybody jump out of that B-17 that got hit by that fighter?
The what?
Did they see anybody jump out of that bomber when the fighter plane got it?
No, we don't. You don't. You're not doing too much sightseeing. My pilot, well, I can't tell you what religion. I think he might have been Catholic, but my radio operator was Jewish, and not a nicer person could you ever ask for. After the war, my wife and I went up to Philadelphia to see my radio operator, and we went down to West Virginia and picked up my ball turret gunner, and he was Catholic, and they were Protestant. They were Jewish there, and you know, they fed him steak. We would just happen to be with Friday, and they fed us nothing but the best, you know. For this is kind of people they were, and he said, "I'm sorry, but I can't eat that." Oh, she says, "Oh my God," she says, "I didn't realize that this was Friday, because they couldn't eat. He couldn't eat meat on Friday." So she got up and got him a can of salmon, and that's the best they could do. But that was the kind of people they were, you know.
So once the war was over with Germany, did they ever have plans to go help with the invasion of Japan?
No. When the war was over in Germany, why they had it all set up. They had never had actual photographs of all of Europe. Not where Russia controlled. We had fighter. When we was photographing, we would photograph in strips, and you would take a certain heading, and then maybe a day, 2, 3, 4 days later, another plane would come in and take right about the same heading you did, only over a little bit. And when they got all through, then they would take them up to somewhere in London, and the headquarters, and they laid all these together, so they had an actual photograph of all of Germany. And
Did you ever hear stories from pilots seeing unexplained lights in the sky?
No.
They were called Foo Fighters.
no, we never seen anything like that. I got in on the latter part of the war, so after the war was over, we get to come home. No, it don't work that way. When we get all of Europe photographed, then you can go home. So, well, I had just got married shortly before, and so you take it as it was. Of course, I got in rank. I got next to the highest you could get. See, tech sergeant, and I met some awful nice people, and and I had Catholic, Jewish, and Protestant all on one crew, and I went out to Washington State one time by myself to see my tail gunner. He was a logger by trade, and after the war, why, he went back out there, and so I don't remember. My wife, we used to go up to Canada fishing, and I went out to Washington all by myself, and my wife, she went with the neighbors up to Canada, where we always go fishing. So after I got through in Washington, I followed there's a road about 5 miles south of the Canadian line. I drove that all the way across to pretty near to Lake Michigan, and boy, you talk about a long, long drive. Yeah. And pick my wife up and then come home after we done a little fishing.
Where were you when Pearl Harbor happened?
Oh, working at Ball, I think I was working at Ball Band at the time. Yeah, over in Mishawaka.
How did you feel about it at the time?
No, you don't give it much thought. You know, you don't give it much thought. See, I was in the 3 C's. I don't know if you heard of them.
3C.
Civilian Conservation Corps.
Oh, yes.
That was one of Roosevelt's ideas for getting young kids off the street, and so we went out. I was in that for 2 years, and we went out to Idaho, and we would build roads, and then in the summer we would fight forest fires. And I put in 2 years in that. So when I went into the service, why, it was old shoe to me, you know, because the 3 C's was run by Army officers, and so, and like I said, I had all of Protestant, Jewish, and Catholic all in our one crew there. Not a nicer bunch of people would I ever want to be with than them. You know?
Do you know what the name of your plane was?
No, we would use whatever plane was serviceable. You would go over there thinking you were going to name a plane, but that's like automobiles. You take whatever the one that's in the driveway that's serviceable. That's the one you take, not the one your favorite. You know, because you like to think you're going to get that new plane, but they call them a repo depot. That plane that we took over there was put into a whole bunch of them. They probably had 50 to 100 planes that were there, new B-17s, and whenever they would get one that was beyond repair, why they would send them up a new plane. See? So the plane that we took over there, you don't never know, because you're only the chauffeur, and the planes we got was ones that had been used, you know, but they had good ground crews, or they took great pride in. If you found something that wasn't quite right, they was right then on it. Yeah. Been a long time. I remember a little, but I forgot more than I remember.
Yeah.
But, we're lucky though, with no children. You know, we didn't have no children until after I'd come back from service. Then I made up for it. 5.
Wow.
It wouldn't take $1 million for any one of them. No.
Well, I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you, Wilbur, for taking the time to sit down and do this with me.
Yeah. Oh, it's